You paid $80,000 for a car, but you may not actually own the motor inside it. Buried in the software of modern electric vehicles is a set of hidden switches that can unlock extra horsepower, extra range, extra features, or lock them away forever, all without a single mechanic ever touching the engine. If a company can flip that switch remotely, do you really own the thing sitting in your driveway, or are you just renting it from a very patient landlord? For most of automotive history, ownership was simple. You bought the metal, the engine, and everything bolted to it, and from that point on, it was yours to modify, repair, sell, or drive into the ground. But the modern electric vehicle broke that deal. Today's cars are rolling computers, permanently tethered to the manufacturer's cloud, and that tether means the company can still reach into your car long after you have paid for it in full. This is called the software-defined vehicle, and it flips the old engineering model on its head. Instead of building a base engine and a premium engine, manufacturers now build one piece of hardware capable of both, then use software to decide which customer gets which performance. The expensive part, the physical difference between the cheap trim and the expensive trim, quietly disappeared. What replaced it was a paywall. Tesla made this mainstream. For years, certain Model 3 and Model Y vehicles shipped with a battery and motor fully capable of a faster 0 to 60 time, deliberately capped by software. Owners could pay roughly $2,000 for an over-the-air unlock called acceleration boost, turning on power that was sitting in the car the entire time. No new parts. No garage visit. Just a line of code standing between you and the performance you already own the hardware for. Tesla did the same thing with its full self-driving package, but structured as an ongoing subscription instead of a one-time unlock. Depending on the year, owners could pay somewhere around $200 a month, or several $1,000s up front, for driver assistance features running on hardware installed in every single car off the line, activated or deactivated purely by which plan is attached to that vehicle's account. The cameras and computer are identical in every car. The only difference is a flag sitting on a server in California. Underneath all of this sits a concept worth understanding, because it explains why none of this can simply be hacked around by a determined owner. Every modern vehicle constantly checks in with the manufacturer's servers, confirming its identity and its entitlements before certain features light up. Engineers call this a digital handshake. Your car is not a sealed machine anymore, it is a client asking permission from a remote server every time it wants to do something premium, and if that server ever says no, the feature simply stops working, no matter how long you have owned the car or how many times you already paid for it. And it did not stop at speed. In 2022, BMW announced that customers in some markets would need to pay a monthly subscription just to keep their heated seats warm, even though the heating elements were already physically installed under the leather. Mercedes-Benz went further, offering an acceleration subscription on its electric EQ models that could unlock as much as 20% more power, priced at roughly $60 a month or a yearly fee, for hardware the driver had already purchased. General Motors did something similar with Super Cruise, its hands-free highway driving feature. New buyers get a free trial period, but once it expires, continuing to use a system that is physically built into the car requires an ongoing subscription. Toyota faced a public backlash in 2023 after moving Remote Start, a feature many owners considered basic and already free in older models, behind a paid connected services plan. Different brands, same pattern. Why would car companies do this? Follow the incentive. A car is traditionally a one-time sale. Once it leaves the lot, the manufacturer's revenue from that customer mostly stops, aside from the occasional service visit. But a subscription never stops. If a company can convert even a fraction of its owners into recurring monthly payments for features the hardware already supports, it creates a new, predictable income stream that scales with every car on the road, not just every car sold this year. Now look at what happens when that car changes hands. Historically, buying a used car meant everything the original owner had, you now had too. But when features live behind a software account tied to the original purchaser, that assumption breaks down. There have been documented cases of Tesla vehicles losing access to full self-driving or enhanced autopilot after resale, because the feature was licensed to a person, not permanently welded to the vehicle's identity. That has real consequences for resale value. A gas car with a good engine is worth roughly the same good engine no matter who owns it. But a software-locked electric vehicle can be worth dramatically less the moment it changes hands, if the new owner has to pay again for features the car has always physically had. The used car market, built for over a century on the simple idea that hardware retains its value, was not designed for products that can be quietly downgraded by their maker after the sale. This exact fight already played out in a different industry, and it is worth understanding, because cars are following the same road. For years, farmers battled John Deere over the right to repair their own tractors. The machines are physically fine, but proprietary software locks prevent independent mechanics, and sometimes even the farmers themselves, from fixing basic problems without an authorized dealer's blessing. Farmers argued that if you own the steel, you should be allowed to fix the steel. Deere argued the software is licensed, not sold, and that is the exact same argument now spreading into your garage. Modern cars increasingly lock their diagnostic ports and require manufacturer authorization for repairs that used to be a simple wrench job. Push the logic far enough, and a strange legal reality appears. You may legally own the steel, the glass, and the battery cells, but only license the code required to steer, brake, or even start the vehicle. Two people can own the identical car, yet have completely different rights, based entirely on which subscriptions they have paid. Lawmakers have started pushing back. Massachusetts voters passed a right to repair ballot measure specifically covering the wireless diagnostic data modern cars transmit, after a similar law already forced automakers to open up physical diagnostic ports back in 2012. The European Union has been drafting its own right to repair rules aimed squarely at software-locked components. None of these laws have fully settled the question yet, and manufacturers continue to argue that safety and cybersecurity require them to keep tight control over who can access a vehicle's systems. But the fact that governments are getting involved at all tells you this is not a fringe complaint, it is becoming a real regulatory fight. And cars did not invent this idea, they inherited it. Back in 2009, Amazon remotely deleted purchased copies of the book 1984 from customers' Kindles overnight, after discovering a rights dispute with the publisher, the kind of irony nobody could script on purpose. Video game libraries tied to online accounts can vanish if a platform shuts down or revokes access. Streaming services quietly remove movies and shows you thought you had bought. In every one of these cases, the customer clicked buy, but what they actually received was a revocable license, not a permanent possession. Cars are simply the largest, most expensive object this idea has ever been applied to. To be fair to the manufacturers, there is a real argument behind all of this, and it deserves airtime. Modern vehicles require constant software updates, cybersecurity patches, and cloud infrastructure that never existed in the era of pure mechanical cars. Someone has to pay for the servers, the engineers, and the security team keeping millions of connected vehicles safe from being hacked. A subscription is, in that light, a way to fund an ongoing service, not just a one-time product, and companies will tell you that keeping prices lower up front while charging for premium software helps make the base vehicle more affordable for more buyers. But critics respond with a simple test. If the hardware for a feature is already sitting inside the car you paid for, charging rent for it feels less like funding a service and more like selling you the same thing twice. Heated seats do not need a cloud server to run. A pre-installed acceleration curve does not need ongoing maintenance to stay unlocked. The debate is not really about whether companies deserve to be paid for software, it is about which features are genuinely an ongoing service, and which are just hardware you already bought, being held hostage by a toggle switch. There is another layer to this that most owners never think about. The same connectivity that lets a manufacturer sell you a software unlock also lets it collect a constant stream of data about how, when, and where you drive. Some automakers have already been caught sharing detailed driving behavior with data brokers, who then sold it on to insurance companies, sometimes affecting a driver's rates without them ever being clearly told. Once a car is always online, it is not just paying rent on its own features, it can quietly become a product in an entirely different business, the business of your own driving data. And this pattern is not staying inside the automotive industry. Printers have used chips to block cheaper third-party ink for years. Smart home devices increasingly require subscriptions to unlock features the sensor hardware already supports. Some appliance makers have experimented with premium modes for washing machines and refrigerators. Cars are simply the most visible, most expensive example of a much bigger shift, one where more of the physical world around you quietly becomes something you rent instead of something you own. So where does that leave the average buyer? The practical advice is simple. Before buying any connected vehicle or smart device, look past the sticker price and ask what is physically installed versus what is merely unlocked by software, and check whether those unlocks transfer to a future buyer. Ask what happens to your paid features the day you decide to sell. Ask whether the diagnostic port is open to independent mechanics. These questions did not used to matter for a car. Now, they might matter more than horsepower on the spec sheet. None of this means electric vehicles or software-defined cars are a scam. Over-the-air updates have genuinely improved safety, added real features for free, and fixed problems that used to require a recall and a dealership visit. The technology itself is not the villain here. The question is simply whether the industry draws an honest line between paying for a real ongoing service and quietly renting back hardware you already own. Zoom out far enough, and this stops being a story about cars at all. It becomes a story about what ownership even means once every object has a chip, a connection, and a company on the other end of that connection with the power to say yes or no. For most of history, once you paid for something, the seller's control over it ended at the checkout counter. Software quietly rewired that rule, one industry at a time, starting with music, then books, then games, and now the single most expensive thing most people will ever buy. The idea of ownership is not dead, but it is being renegotiated one software update at a time, and most buyers have not noticed the terms changing under them. The next time you buy anything with a chip inside it, a car, an appliance, even a light bulb, ask the one question that matters most: are you buying the object, or are you just leasing the right to use it until the company on the other end decides otherwise? If this made you look at your own car differently, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which locked feature annoyed you the most. Thanks for watching.